Okay, so if you're new to the channel, I call all my subscribers dragons. We're smoking all my dragons, divine, righteous, almighty, great, overachieving, never slacking. I'm back with another American Reacts. I got the single Australian farm that's bigger than 49 countries. What? So we're going to hop right into this. Original link will be in the description if you just want to check that out without the reaction. Other than that, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we're going to hop right into this.
Anna Creek Station is massive. Whether you describe it as a privately held piece of property or a ranch, it's the biggest one of those. It's as tall as the Netherlands, as wide as Wales, and basically every article about it adeptly mentions
as tall as the Netherlands, as wide as Wales. What?
It's as tall as the Netherlands, as wide as Wales, and basically every article about it adeptly mentions that it's bigger in total size than Israel. A perfect choice for comparison given that Israel's size is very constant and in no way subject to controversy. It also happens to be bigger than El Salvador, Belize, Djibouti, and literally dozens of other countries, but hey, all engagement is good engagement. While its size is surprising, Anna Creek's location isn't. Australia, it turns out, is absolutely littered with giant cattle stations. Clifton Hill Station is 6,650 square miles, right around the size of Eswatini. Alexandria Station is 6,220 square miles, also around the size of Eswatini. And the station, which is a restaurant in Warunga, is 0.00011 square miles, but apparently has, quote, no surprises, good or bad. So why is Australia overrun with a bunch of bovine micronations? Well, a lot of it is explained by taking a look at this map. Now, the first thing you'll notice when you look at this map is that a lot of it is very red, and if you're thinking that seems probably bad, great news, you're about one sentence ahead of me. A huge portion of Australia falls under the charmingly blunt distinction hot desert.
Honestly, like, I hate to bring this up, right? But there's this movie I watched, you guys probably remember it, where there's an Australian man, and he was like this sniper. They went out to some like desert or some back road in Australia, and this guy was just like a super savage. And I hate to say it, but every time I think of like Australia and deserts and back roads, and that movie always comes to my mind. He would like hunt people or something like that.
European settlers took one look at this desert, gave up, and declared it on this map as useless, overlooking the fact that indigenous people had managed to live off those lands for centuries, but they also took one look at some other bits.
Wow. They just said a key thing there.
As useless, overlooking the fact that indigenous people had managed to live off those lands for centuries, but they all
indigenous people lived off that land for centuries, but to us, it's deemed useless.
As useless, overlooking the fact that indigenous people had managed to live off those lands for centuries, but they also took one look at some other bits of slightly less hot, slightly less dry desert and awarded it the distinction of sparse grazing lands. But even with its not useless designation, Anna Creek Station isn't exactly welcoming. It has sparse vegetation, only gets about 8 inches or 20 centimeters of rain a year, and can reach up to 131 degrees Fahrenheit or 55 degrees Celsius, a temperature scientifically known as very, very hot. And that's why the station's so big. Because the vegetation's so sparse, it just takes a massive area to give the cattle, in a good year about 17,000, enough to graze on. For comparison, King Ranch, the largest ranch in the US, is less than 1/7 the size of Anna Creek, yet supports about twice the number of cattle on its wetter, cooler, more vegetated landscape. So how does the farm the size of 147 Liechtensteins manage to operate? Well, the key, of course, is staff. And to operate a potentially Israel-sized piece of land, they employ a massive 11 people. 1 manager, 8 station hands, a plant operator, and a cook. Yep, 11. Many of whom are young and functionally apprentices called, and this is true, jackaroos and jillaroos. This enormous area is run by the same number of people as a somewhat busy McDonald's, largely thanks to technology. It operates its faraway water pumps remotely with UHF radio waves, and cattle are often located using low-flying plane runs and then rounded up by station hands on motorbikes instead of horses because motorbikes typically don't experience heat stroke. The staff primarily operates out of
that seemed like it would be a fun job, getting paid to ride motorbikes all day. I mean, come on.
This single homestead, powered by a diesel generator and satellite internet connection. If you need to go to town, the nearest is here, Coober although to be honest, calling it a town is generous. It's got a population of just 1,762 people, and basically everyone lives in these crazy underground caves like they're in the mid-2000s.
What? In caves? Yeah, I gotta travel. I gotta travel out of the U.S., guys. I gotta see how people living out there. I gotta see this for myself.
And basically everyone lives in these crazy underground caves like they're in a mid-2000s YA dystopia. There's actually an even smaller town in the center of the property here called William Creek. It's got a little hotel, a pub, some campgrounds, and even what they claim is a 9-hole golf course, but what is more accurately 9 holes dug kinda far away from each other in the middle of the desert. But these facilities actually see decent business from tourists taking the treacherous trip to Lake Eyre. The hotel regularly sees most of its 53 rooms booked and is the core of the economy in the town with an official population of just 10. Both William Creek and the nearby station Homestead are served mail by the Coober Pedy Oodnadatta one-day mail run, a delightfully quaint bus that goes from Coober Pedy to William Creek to Oodnadatta on unpaved 4x4 roads twice a week as an official Australia Post contractor, but also offering spots for tourists who can experience the thrill of going over whatever gibber planes are. The issue of the largest privately owned piece of land raises the question, who privately owns it? Well, before the comments start going insane, I should point out that technically, Anna Creek Station is not privately owned, but privately held, under something called a pastoral lease, where the land is technically owned by the Australian government, and there are certain ways pastoralists are required to use it. Now that I haven't said anything in this video that will upset people, I can move on to telling you that for most of its history, Anna Creek was owned by Sir Sidney Kidman, who at the time of his death owned nearly 4% of Australia's mainland, and before you ask, yes, he is related to Antonia Kidman. Recently, S. Kidman & Co. was in the process of being sold to a joint venture between Hancock Prospecting and Shanghai Cred, but the government refused to let this part foreign ownership buy Anna Creek for national security reasons, given that Anna Creek lies within the Woomera Prohibited Area, home to the largest land weapons testing range in the world. Instead, the largest tract of land in the world is now held by Williams Cattle Company, who also owns 5 neighboring properties, giving them a total.
It's just so much. Like, when you really sit there and look at that, it's like, the reason I'm making that face, if they really want to hide anything, I mean, like, they could hide anything on that land. I mean, it was literally like a home to indigenous people, indigenous tribes for, he said, centuries here, guys. Centuries, right? I can only imagine what's hidden. Like, there could be a whole, like, portal to Wakanda or something. Like, just, you just don't know. We wouldn't know. I mean, a lot of people are going to write that off. Oh, it's nothing but just dry stuff and blah, 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 blah. The truth is, we really don't know anything, bro, like we think we do.
Land ownership larger than Switzerland, and the official title of #1 owner of giant Australian cattle stations except for S. Kidman & Co., which still has slightly more. Look, to be honest, if you just finished watching this whole video about Australian cattle stations, you're kind of a nerd, which is great because we are too, and that's how we know that you'll love our sponsor, Brilliant. The whole purpose of Half as Interesting, this channel, is to make learning feel fun and engaging. And that's why we love Brilliant's approach. It's a learning platform that makes learning STEM concepts fun, exciting, and approachable by teaching you through interactive, hands-on problem solving. For example, Brilliant's new Everyday Math course helps you refresh and improve your math skills for everyday application. Stuff like fractions, bar models, scientific notation, the things you know that you know from school but kind of forgot but would be able to use if you remembered them better. You'll get 20% off Brilliant's premium annual subscription when you're one of the first 200 to click the button on screen or go to brilliant.org/HAI, and when you do, you'll also be helping to support our channel.
So that was awesome. Honestly, like, for me, it's just like, when I think about things like that, is there's got to be, sometimes there's got probably something on that land, man, somewhere. Like, it honestly reminds me of, like, you guys watch Stranger Things. If not, check out my Stranger Things playlist. I definitely reacted to Stranger Things, and if you remember where they held the Eleven at, was like somewhere out in the desert, like with this underground bunker, like just this whole facility. And it's like no one knew where it really was. It's like you're just driving out of nowhere. It's like, so you really don't know who, what, where, when could be anywhere out there. Like, what could be out there. Like, it's crazy. I mean, there could be things in our backyard, if you got acres and acres that honestly we would never know is there. So I could only imagine on land that's bigger than 49 countries. That's absolutely insane. That's insanity when you really think about it, right? Wow. So, man, if you guys want to check out the original video, the link will be in the description. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about that. That is very interesting. Very interesting. Like I said, when it first started, it reminded me immediately of that movie. I forgot the movie name, guys. Like, if you know what I'm talking about, comment that movie. I'll pin it to the top. Where the guy in Australia was just like hunting people, man. It was. I remember me and my boy watched that movie, man. Where he was like teenagers. It was no joke. I think there's like a part two to it. Like, this dude was no joke. He was like just sniping everything. Um, and I think it may have been based on like a true story, but not to scare anybody. But like, unfortunately, like that's the movies that they put out. That made me when I think of back roads of Australia. But I'm sure there's so much beauty, so much. That now I'm gonna look it up. Look at the beauty of the back roads of Australia, the countrysides of Australia. I mean, that part where they were in the caves and things like that. I mean, that's different. Living in them caves like that. That's somewhere I would definitely want to travel and get to see for myself for sure, for sure. But with that being said, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell for more. And I'll be back with more. Much love, everybody. That was an awesome video. Very interesting.